What's going on, everybody? Champ is back, and we are back with another death row person who died today. Looking forward to this thing all day because I think this happened at some point while we were working today. Yippee for that. So, as usual, this video is brought to you by Final Verdict. Their channel, I'm tired, I'm sorry. Their channel and the original video will be in the description box down below. Make sure you go ahead and check them out. They've been doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Past death row inmates, they're all over the place. They got their whole entire thing loaded over there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get it started. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and your comments in the box down below, the comment section. Let's go.
On May 20th, 2026, Leroy Dean McGill was executed in Arizona. He had spent more than 21 years on death row for dousing a 20-year-old man in gasoline and setting him on fire inside a Phoenix apartment. But the reason Leroy ended up on death row started with
Look at this guy. He looks like a redneck version of Beaker.
something far smaller. Someone accused him of stealing a shotgun, and Leroy decided that was worth killing over.
Sure.
This is what happened. In the summer of 2002, Leroy was 39 years old and barely keeping his head above water. He and his girlfriend Yona were nearly homeless, temporarily staying with a friend in the Sunny Slope area of Phoenix. The two of them had
It's hot as balls there, by the way. It's like 115 degrees like all year, all the time. Straight up desert action.
recently been kicked out of a small one-bedroom duplex apartment a short walk away, owned by a man named Jack.
Damn
That
Jack.
apartment was crowded. Jack had his own bedroom, but the rest of the space, the common room that doubled as a kitchen and living room, was shared by everyone else. 20-year-old Charles Perez and his girlfriend Nova Banta slept there. Eddie Keith lived there with his wife Kim and their two young daughters.
So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people.
And Jonah's brother Jeffrey
7.
stayed there on and off. All of them crammed into one small unit in the Arizona heat.
8, 9. Because Leroy and his girlfriend was there too. So we got Leroy and what's her name, Jonah. That's 2 people. That's one couple. The married couple with the 2 kids, and Jonah comes by, cramped in the heat.
Then Jack's shotgun went missing, and Charles and Nova blamed Leroy and Jonah. That accusation made an already tense living situation worse, and Jack kicked the two of them out. They ended up at a friend's place a short walk from the duplex.
Damn.
But Leroy did not let it go.
So we thought about a shotgun because we misplaced the shotgun because we're that respectful of gun owners. And we blamed Beaker here. Okay. Beaker and his girlfriend did it. Okay.
On the evening of July 12th, Leroy, Jonah, their friend, and a man named Justin Johnson spent the night at the house smoking marijuana they had bought from Charles earlier that day. Hours passed, and at around 3:30 in the morning, while the night at the house smoking marijuana they had bought from Charles earlier.
Charles was the guy that accused him of stealing the shotgun, right? Why is he buying weed from Charles? Because I'm assuming it's going to be these 2 guys that died.
That day. Hours passed, and at around 3:30 in the morning, while the rest of the neighborhood was asleep, Leroy got up and walked to Jack's duplex. Outside, he ran into Eddie Keith, and what happened next was not the act of someone in a blind rage. Leroy told Eddie to get his wife and children out of the apartment. He said he was going to teach Charles and Jack a lesson, that nobody gets away with talking about him and Yona.
No one talks shit about me. Oh my God.
Eddie pleaded with him not to do it. Leroy agreed to spare Jack, but he told Eddie it was too late for Charles. Then he
Well, you can't hate him that much. You just bought weed off of him.
warned him that he was the only person who knew about this, and if anyone said anything, Leroy would know who talked. And then he looked at Eddie and told him he had pretty little girls. Eddie grabbed his wife and his daughters and ran. Yona's brother Jeffrey let Leroy into the apartment. Inside, Charles and his girlfriend were sitting next to each other on a couch near the front door. Leroy looked at them and told Charles he shouldn't talk behind other people's backs. But neither of them got a chance to respond. Leroy poured gasoline over both of them and threw a lit match. But this
What?
Leroy poured gasoline over both of them and threw a lit match.
Just like that? They're just sitting there chilling out, and he just randomly walks in the house and just pours gasoline on them, and they just let it happen.
But this was not ordinary gasoline. Before walking to that apartment, Leroy had mixed pieces of a styrofoam cup into the fuel. He believed it would create a thick paste-like substance that would cling to skin and be harder to put out.
Damn.
He had thought about this. He had prepared for it.
Yeah.
And now Charles and Nova were covered in it. They were engulfed in flames almost instantly. Both of them ran screaming from the apartment. The fire tore through the duplex and spread into the adjoining unit. Jack and Jeffrey escaped from one side, and a woman named Mary Neer escaped from the other. First responders rushed Charles and Nova to the hospital. Both had third-degree burns covering more than 75% of their bodies. Charles Perez died the following day. He 75% of their bodies. Charles Perez died the following day.
Oh.
He was 20 years old. After the fire, Leroy walked back to his friend's house, and at some point that night, he called the house and asked Jonah a single question: whether it smelled like burning flesh.
What?
Then he asked Justin Johnson, who was with him that night, if he was going to talk. He testified that someone in that house, either Leroy or Yona, threatened him with harm if he said anything to anyone. But Nova Banta survived. And while she was still in the hospital, barely alive, burned over 3/4 of her body, she told her nurse the name of the man who had set her on fire: Leroy Dean McGill.
In a way, though, it does like really, really suck that she survived this, because the only thing she's gonna deal with for the rest of her life is just pain, 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 pain. And you're like permanently like deformed too. You probably can't even go out in public. Damn. It's like the worst thing you can do to somebody, besides like throwing acid at them and stuff.
The investigation moved quickly after that. By March 2003, Leroy had been indicted on first-degree murder for what he did to Charles, attempted murder for what he did to Nova, and arson and endangerment charges for everyone else who had been inside or near that building when the fire started.
Yeah.
And the state made it clear from the beginning. They weren't just going to prosecute Leroy. They were going to seek the death penalty. But when his trial began in October 2004, Leroy's defense team tried to present a case in which they described him as a man shaped by dysfunction, neglect, and addiction from the very beginning.
So what? This is not a rational reaction at all.
His parents divorced around the time he was born. His mother, Ann, took her 5 children and spent the next decade bouncing between California, Arizona, and Texas, working whatever job she could find to keep them fed. But it wasn't enough. The kids were removed from the home more than once. And when Leroy was 8, he and 2 of his brothers ended up in foster care and were eventually sent to Buckner's Boys Ranch in San Antonio.
Let me guess, he got molested there.
A strict and harsh group home where kids were expected to fall in line or be punished.
Yep.
By the time he was 13, his mother had given up trying to manage him and applied to have him admitted to Boysville, another reform school in San Antonio.
Boysville. Who the fuck are these people? Hey, where do your kids go to school? Oh, they go to Boysville. Right next to Jonestown.
Leroy spent most of his childhood being passed from one institution to the next, with no stable home and no one who stayed. By adulthood, he was a chronic daily methamphetamine user.
Don't do meth.
He had picked up 2 armed robbery convictions while intoxicated and homeless, pleaded guilty to both, and served his time. After his release, something had actually changed. He reconnected with family. He held a job. And for a while, it looked like Leroy might have turned a corner.
But then he didn't.
But then he met Yonah Hardesty, and according to everyone who knew him, whatever stability he had rebuilt fell apart. Leroy's family described Jonah as one of the most evil people they had ever encountered in their lives. She enabled his drug use. She destabilized everything he had rebuilt. And according to the neuropsychologist who testified for the defense, when Yonah said jump, Leroy jumped.
So she didn't get anything?
His childhood, marked by a neglectful and emotionally distant mother, had made him deeply susceptible to manipulation from women. His dependence on Jonah, combined with his methamphetamine addiction, had impaired his judgment in the weeks and months leading up to the night he walked back to that duplex.
That's kind of a tragedy if you think about it then. You know, you get sent to prison, but you get like a second chance at life after being a drug addict and all this, and then all it takes is just an evil woman to just go right back to drugs, and here you are again.
The jury heard all of it. The broken home, the reform schools, the addiction, the relationship, the expert testimony about cognitive function and substance abuse. But witnesses had placed Leroy at the duplex before the fire, and Nova had identified Leroy as the man who attacked her.
Who did it, yeah.
She told the jury exactly what happened. That he turned around, looked at her and Charles, told him he shouldn't talk behind other people's backs, poured gasoline on them, and quickly lit a match and threw it. And then Nova showed the jury the injuries she still carried from that night.
Damn.
Then the prosecution introduced one more detail. While Leroy was sitting in jail awaiting trial, he had tried to have a witness against him killed. And
Everything you do is recorded in there.
that made the verdict final. The jury returned a sentence of death. Leroy Dean McGill sat on death row for the next 21 years. Every appeal was filed. Every appeal was denied. And in March 2026, Arizona scheduled his execution for May 20th.
Boom.
On the evening before his execution, Leroy was served his final meal. He had requested onion rings, bread and butter, cottage pie, a green salad, and a slice of chocolate cake. The next morning, at 10:01 a.m., he was brought into the execution chamber. He was dressed in white.
What would that be for Eastern time? I'm assuming right at 9, right? No, it would probably be closer to 8. Because this is Arizona.
10:04, the curtain to the witness room opened. A spiritual advisor was with him. Before the procedure began, Leroy was given the opportunity to make a final statement. He looked around the room and said, "I just want to thank everyone for being so accommodating and nice." And then he said, "I'm going home soon." Those were his last words.
Why'd you say it like that?
At 10:14, the drugs were administered. Leroy showed no resistance. He took a few heavy breaths and made short snoring sounds. And then he went still. Leroy Dean McGill was pronounced dead at 10:26 a.m. He was 63 years old. He was the first person executed in Arizona in 2026. What do you think? Has justice been served?
That's crazy.
Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
I don't think I'm going to age restrict this video. It's just so random and dumb. But yeah, that's what happened on this random ass Wednesday. There's 2 videos right here. Where are we at? Like this. It's been a long day for me. I'm just gonna go. There you go.